asking, is there life? And it wasn't until 2014 that retired U.S. Marine Randy Kramer finally found a definitive answer. Yes, life in the universe is in full swing, and he knows this firsthand. After all, for 17 years, Kramer lived and served not just at some secret facility, but on Mars itself. In a sensational interview, he claimed that humanity has long conquered the red planet, and while scientists were looking for even the slightest trace of primitive life in space, Kramer shocked the public with details of encounters with hundreds of alien forms. Of course, no one believes this, nor do I for that matter. But if he did make all of that up and extraterrestrial life doesn't exist, what do we do with all the other facts that prove his words? It's not just obvious nutcases that describe strange things. People who are directly related to space do too. Astronauts encounter unexplained phenomena as soon as they go into orbit, but few are eager to recount their fresh experiences to the general public. For instance, China's first astronaut, Yang Liwei, admitted he heard mysterious sounds in his spacecraft only in 2016, 13 years after his flight. On Chinese television, he described in detail some knocking that kept going on and off. It most resembled the sound of a gavel hitting an iron bucket, and it was impossible to tell who or what was making it. You see, Liwei went to space all by himself. The astronaut was worried the spacecraft might be faulty. But ground control didn't find any issues. Liwei's account stirred heated discussions. You see, space is where absolute silence reigns. Sound waves cannot travel where there's no air. That's why even powerful galactic explosions don't make any sound at all. On the other hand, space is a perfect place for all kinds of altered states of consciousness. Zero gravity causes changes in blood flow. The body stops sending signals to the brain, leading to disorientation. These factors can trigger hallucinations, but those changes only occur if a person spends at least a few weeks in space. And Yang Liwei landed just 21 hours and 22 minutes after takeoff. As soon as he did, engineers started their tests. Samples of the spacecraft's materials were examined in designated labs. Numerous experiments led to the only reasonable explanation. As a matter of fact, the spacecraft was exposed to pressure and temperatures during its flight. The metal was changing its shape and might have made sounds in the process. But according to the astronaut, none of the suggested options sounded like the space knocking. And if the spacecraft was fine, its pilot might be the reason. Despite years of training, an actual spaceflight is a strain on the body, and zero gravity could be responsible for the astronaut's hypoxia. In turn, the lack of oxygen might have caused akuasms, auditory hallucinations in the form of certain sounds, such as footsteps, creaks, or knocks. However, 2 years after Liwei, 2 astronauts went to space in the second crewed spacecraft, Shenzhou 6. Both the pilot and the commander, who spent 115 hours and 30 minutes in orbit, heard a strange knocking throughout their flight as well. Maybe their perception was affected by long-term exposure to the constant white noise of the devices on board. But scientists cannot come to a uniform decision on that either. Some believe group hallucinations aren't real. Others are convinced this phenomenon just needs further research. In another 3 years, 3 astronauts went to space for almost 3 days. They had been warned of strange sounds and weren't surprised when they heard them. But both the physical origin of that sound and the mechanism of its perception are still a mystery. Psychologists have tried to explain them through suggestibility and the theory of telepathic contact, when trusting relationships are built between people in search of common interests. In this case, any small detail is enough for everyone to feel the same. It was this kind of excitement and unity that permeated Apollo 10, which was supposed to conduct a dress rehearsal for all the steps of the moon landing. The crew consisted of seasoned astronauts who had been in space before. Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan were supposed to go through every stage of the flight, testing both the equipment and maneuvers planned for the next mission, Apollo 11. The crucial task was to separate the lunar module from the command module. Stafford and Cernan undocked in the lunar module and entered low orbit, part of which was only 15 kilometers away from the moon's surface. And every time they went past the far side of the moon, they lost contact with Earth, and their transmitter would make mysterious sounds, which were later dubbed alien moon music. This time, the sounds were recorded clearly.
Yeah, it sounds like, outer space type music.
That's why the only possible explanation was a technical failure, but radio distortion that low from the surface could only be caused by a magnetic field. The thing is, the moon doesn't have one. Even in the 21st century, no one can explain these events adequately. In the meantime, astronauts not only hear, but also see strange things. One of NASA's first space pilots, Gordon Cooper, wrote an autobiography called Leap of Faith, which included exhaustive descriptions of strange things he saw in space. As a pioneer of American astronautics, he holds many records. For example, he became the first person to have spent over a day in orbit and even slept in space. During his flight, he orbited Earth 22 times and spent more time in space than the crews of all 5 previous missions put together. He also became the first astronaut in the world to complete 2 orbital flights. But it's not only this that we remember him for. Cooper was a strong supporter of the belief in the existence of UFOs. The first unusual incident happened to him when he was still a pilot. During a training flight, Cooper saw a group of giant objects in the sky. They flew much faster and higher than the most advanced American aircraft. The second time the astronaut encountered something resembling a UFO was in space. In 1963, he went on a solo flight on the Mercury Atlas 9 mission. And just when he was about to return to Earth, he saw an enormous, luminous, green ball out of a porthole. He claimed the object could be seen even from Earth. Allegedly, over 100 people saw it at the NASA station in Australia. But how come the official version still mentions a system error on board and Cooper's hallucinations caused by a high level of carbon dioxide in the air? You see, there was a failure of all control systems right before the end of the flight. First, there was a power outage. Then the temperature in the cabin rose to almost 55 degrees Celsius. The carbon dioxide level in the air went up. The risk of failure loomed over the mission, but somehow, by some miracle, Cooper managed to complete the flight with manual control. He skillfully landed the capsule in the Pacific Ocean, only 6.5 kilometers from the rescue ship. So, what was it? A system failure caused by an alien object? Or was it a hallucination caused by stress and physical strain? For 7 years after the incident, Cooper worked at NASA and even went into space for a second time. But he never managed to find the answers. Till his last days, he claimed that much more advanced aliens visit Earth on the reg. According to him, radars in the U.S. spot objects of unfamiliar structure every day. Exactly 20 years after Cooper's first flight, Franklin Story Musgrave, a legendary figure in U.S. history, found himself in a similar situation. Musgrave served in the Marine Corps and was a field doctor, engineer, and mathematician. Since 1983, he had 6 space flights and 4 spacewalks. He claims that during 2 of his 6 flights, he saw UFOs. It was a line of ships that looked like a large writhing snake. Both times it followed the astronauts for some time, but never attacked. This might well have been an optical illusion, but according to Musgrave, the more you venture into space, the more life you see there. He would have found a supporter in the inventor and scientist Nikola Tesla, who was obsessed with space. In 1899, during his experiments, he caught radio signals from space and figured that Martians were trying to communicate using the universal language of numbers. Tesla's experiment would be repeated only 28 years later by Norwegian engineer Jørgen Hals. As usual, one evening, he was transmitting signals from his house in Oslo in Morse code. Suddenly, they came back to him in a few seconds. The phenomenon was later called a long-delayed echo, which is a radio echo with a delay of 1 to 40 seconds. It wasn't until 1967, when the first pulsar was discovered, that scientists assumed it was these neutron stars with powerful magnetic fields that returned radio signals. The discovery of pulsars was celebrated with the Nobel Prize, and in the 21st century, scientists have found nearly 2,000 of these objects. But the discovery of the first pulsar was kept secret for almost a year after it was made. You see, it was initially mistaken for aliens. But in 1973, Scottish researcher Duncan Lunan offered a different explanation of the origin of radio signals. He claimed he'd deciphered Hal's echo signals and read the aliens' message. Apparently, they said their home was Epsilon Boötis. The message also read that their probe was in the orbit of our moon. Lunan went even further and placed the scheme of the signals over the star chart. He said it made him see that the scheme followed the shape of what the constellation Boötis used to be 13,000 years ago. When in 1998, a photograph of the Black Knight appeared, all those versions could finally be tied together to tell a comprehensive story about the most famous extraterrestrial spacecraft. Allegedly, this very spacecraft has been orbiting Earth for thousands of years, trying to contact humanity. A former NASA employee attempted to dispel this legend. According to him, the extraterrestrial thingamajig is simply an insulating blanket that was supposed to cover the Unity ISS module. It just so happened that astronaut Jerry Ross dropped it while working in outer space. But this doesn't explain how come the object was spotted back in 1967. Then, French writer and scientist Jacques Vallée noticed a satellite moving in the opposite direction. That sounds incredible, but what if there's a reason why we find it all confusing and incomprehensible and think people who talk about it are crazy? Could the truth about space finds be distorted or covered up on purpose? Recently, more and more former NASA employees have stepped up with sensational claims of what they were ordered to hide. Former cartographer Donna Hare claims astronauts regularly encounter UFOs in space, but they are officially prohibited from talking about it, and she certainly knows what she's talking about. After all, according to Donna, it was she who, for 20 years, retouched the images in NASA's darkroom. When the first color photograph of Mars was taken in 1976, it made a huge fuss in the aeronautics department. It showed how much the red planet is similar to Earth. The same blue sky, the same gray-brown rocks and yellow sand. That's why it was decided to paint the planet red in the future. Donna claims she had clearance to access all top-secret areas and saw photographs of aliens that were erased from pictures. There's also astronaut Brian O'Leary, who claims to have witnessed the editing of the famous Face on Mars photograph in person. He says the silhouette was blurred so much as to make it look like a natural phenomenon. Former NASA employee Ken Johnston shocked the public with his claim that his leadership was hiding ancient artifacts found on the surfaces of Mars and the Moon. He said these were proof of the existence of an ancient civilization that perished in Star Wars. After revealing this information, Johnston was fired. fired. But it turned out that losing a job wasn't the worst thing that could happen to him. In 2018, conspiracists all over the world were shaken by the deaths of America's two most prominent ufologists. They had spent many years not only researching UFOs, but also exposing government secrets, and they passed away almost within a day of each other. In the 60s, former U.S. Air Force Sergeant Carl Wolf worked as a photo technician for NASA's Lunar Orbiter project. Part of his duties was at the Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, where he saw the secret photos of the moon's far side. According to him, it turned out that it has lots of massive towers, domes, and other human-made objects about which Wolf didn't dare to tell anyone for as long as 35 years. And despite the complete lack of evidence, people believed his story unconditionally. This inspired the ufologist to reveal even more secrets. At first glance, his premature death seems like an accident. The ufologist was hit by a tractor when he was riding a bike. But neither do conspiracy theorists believe in fate when it comes to the death of former Sergeant Major Robert Dean. On the face of it, he died at a venerable age from cardiac arrest. But what was strange was that it happened the following day after Carl Wolf's death. According to Robert Dean, since the 60s, he had access to top-secret documents about space threats. He knew that the U.S. military had shot down multiple airships designed in unfamiliar ways. According to him, the bodies of aliens were dissected right on board their ships, and one humanoid was even captured alive. It sounds crazy, but the sudden near-simultaneous deaths of ufologists indeed seems suspicious, although it's unlikely the special services have anything to do with them. After all, they've been using secret memory erasure technologies for a long time. At least, that's what Randy Kramer claims. He says that for a long time, he couldn't remember a single moment from his Martian past. Apparently, he could only regain his memory thanks to a special hypnosis technique, which allowed him to remember 5 research bases on Mars. Kramer claims that intelligent, dragon-like beings attacked the planet and destroyed 2 bases, killing over 500 Earthlings. After that, he had to fast-track his departure from the Red Planet. For some time after returning to Earth, he continued his service in the Marines, complying with all secrecy requirements. But after getting his memories back, Kramer could no longer stay silent. He is sure his stories would completely dispel the atmosphere of strict secrecy around aliens. But what do scientists have to say in response to the incredible statements of Kramer, former NASA employees, and ufologists? Today, space agencies' websites and millions of photos in the public domain allow everyone an opportunity to become a virtual archaeologist. On May 7, 2015, NASA's Curiosity Mars rover took a photo of an unusual pyramid-shaped rock. The object's overly regular shape suggests its human-made origin, but researcher Jim Bell, who's seen thousands of such photos, claims that rocks that look like other objects are a pretty common thing. Famous ufologist Joe White, who regularly reviews new photos from rovers, doesn't agree with Bell at all. One of his discoveries is an ancient Sphinx statue on the surface of Mars, and although it's badly destroyed, its resemblance to its counterpart on Earth is amazing, as well as its impressive size. This statue is about 60 meters long, which is just 15 meters shorter than the Egyptian Sphinx. Scientists have an explanation for that, too. They blame discoveries on apophenia, a tendency to see patterns in random unlinked events. Psychologists believe that, to a certain extent, apophenia is inherent in every person and can manifest depending on their mental state. But it would be impossible for absolutely everyone to have the same kind of apophenia, wouldn't it? Then how come so many people see the same thing in some photos? For example, one of the photos of Mars features something that clearly looks like a triangular building with a regular shape. And the photo taken by NASA's Curiosity rover features the peak of a pyramid too. Such regular edges rarely form on their own, hence the assumption of their their human-made origin. This time, next to that pyramid, there was something like the top of a tremendous head in some kind of helmet. Sunken eye sockets and a missing nose are clearly the Sphinx's features. The statue-like figure could even be a deity to whom the Martians prayed for protection. Another thing that makes it stand out is the material it's made of. Some ufologists even dare to claim that it could be copper or gold. In 2019, Chinese moon rover Yutu-2, which is exploring the moon's far side, managed to photograph a mysterious cubic structure. It was dubbed the Mysterious Cabin on the Moon. It simultaneously looks like the outlines of an extraterrestrial base and just a rock of an unusual shape. But someday, we'll find out its origin and purpose. After all, we still have a long road of exploring space ahead. As for becoming a virtual archaeologist, anyone can become one today. Just choose a photo, show some patience, and let your imagination run wild. For example, in this new photo taken by Curiosity, I can clearly see a skeleton of a giant fish. And let's face it, we've never seen anything like it. In any case, it's still hard to understand how the Martian wind could give such an unusual shape to a simple rock. So let's look for traces of life on other planets together. Tell me in the comments, what do these things in the photos look like to you?